Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you for joining us for another segment. We're going to be speaking with Mr. Everett Knight, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Investments for the Valens Company. He's joining us to talk about some of the latest developments in analytical testing, product development, manufacturing, and distribution of cannabis products. Welcome to Health Professional Radio. Everett, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
What prompted you to go into the cannabis industry?
For me, it was very personal. I would say that it started over kind of 10 years ago. I saw the medicinal benefits of cannabis in my family, and kind of woke up at how real this is and how this needs to be researched, and we need the studies. But this is a very real thing that not only is recreational, but helps people on a day-to-day basis. So I was a small cap portfolio manager at the time. And somehow I convinced the rest of my team to allow me to invest in cannabis. And since then, been a cannabis investor, an avid cannabis investor, launched the first long-only institutional cannabis mandate in Canada. And, I've been lucky enough to kind of grow through the cycles through the space. I've toured over 200 facilities worldwide now. And, now, in the last few years, I'm more tilted to technology and, meaningful technologies that can make a difference. And that's the reason I joined the Valens Company 3.5 years ago now, because I believe that where we're going is where the consumer's going, and not only just for recreational, but for medical purposes as well.
How widely do the processes vary as far as product development, the strength of some strains? I mean, a lot of us think that it's just a matter of simply growing it, cutting it, squeezing it. We're very unfamiliar with the process of how cannabis comes to the market in the first place.
Yeah, so you really focus on the end product, on where you want it to go, and work backwards. That's what we did with our customers previously. We worked with a ton of customers in Canada and CPG companies, and with our products today. So when you say, okay, we want it in a vape pen, right? We want it with, a full spectrum vape pen. You got to keep those terpenes. So then you work backwards, and that's how you actually go in the extraction process. And that's the reason we have 5 different types of extraction, is really so that we can customize that flavor profile. If you just want to actually isolate for THC, which is the psychoactive cannabinoid, or CBD, the non-psychoactive cannabinoid, maybe we'd run through a different extraction process. But with that full spectrum vape pen example, or our live terp vape pen, what you really want to do is make sure that you have those terpenes that naturally come in the plant. And terpenes are, seen in every environment, in every environment. And, there's fruit flavored terpenes, et cetera, but you find them naturally in this cannabis plant. And what we're finding is more and more is that consumers want that full spectrum of how those terpenes interact with THC and CBD. So we played around with a lot of different combinations. And obviously it's strain specific. You can't, if the terpene's not in the strain, you obviously can't put it in unless you strip it out and re-add it. So it's very customized to whatever end product you're using.
What would you say separates your cannabis extraction process from others?
So we're one of the largest in Canada, but truly it's the IP behind it, right? There's not many companies with 5 different types of extraction. Whether you want CO2, right? A lot of people are familiar with CO2 extraction. Ethanol extraction is one that's very popular, especially kind of in the hemp space. Then there's hydrocarbon extraction, where you use butane, and that's where you can isolate for a little bit more of the terpene profiles. Right. And then you got solventless extraction. And then the final one is actually terpene extraction, where you can actually take some of those terpenes out and re-add it in later. And that's really what our customers come to us, and why the consumers love our product, is because we can customize that to the product type.
When it comes to customization, ingesting your products, using them, what would you say is the cleanest or safest method? I heard you mention vape pens. Do you deal in edibles as well? Talk a bit about how that process ends up, in different types of delivery packages.
Yeah, for the Valens Company, our focus has been on what we view as the future of cannabis, which in Canada we call 2.0 products. What that means is extract-based products. And yeah, you said it, right? I think that, even how I got in this industry, through the medical side, doctors do not want you to smoke cannabis, right? Smoking is still smoking. And what we do as a company is we have a platform of technologies. And when you extract the dried cannabis into oil, you can put it into consumable products where you don't actually have to smoke. You can ingest it. So we're one of the fastest growing edibles players, and I look for more innovation from us on that front. But beverages, right? Mm-hmm. You have a variety of beverages and social occasions from that standpoint. There's topicals that help with this. I think if you do not want to smoke cannabis or inhale cannabis, either through dried cannabis or vapes, there's plenty of other methods that you can do it. And I think that what has been the consumer, as you see, is the fastest growing area. But the reason dried cannabis has been the biggest area is because it's easier, right? It comes, the plant's there and you just light it, right? So I think that's been the easier, but as technology's expanded, you've seen the growth in these 2.0 new product bases. And I think you continue to see that as the social acceptance and health trends that we've seen, across different facets of society continues, right? For me, I would love to cheers an edibles at a dinner, rather than, sit at the table and light a joint. And, everyone's different. And obviously dried cannabis isn't going away. It's still growing fast, but that's the reason edibles and drinks, especially, from our standpoint, are really what we've invested in for the future. And, we've invested in a platform of automation and technology that not only kind of fit the Canadian cannabis space today, but really leave us enough room for CPG companies to come on our platform to manufacture for them. Because I think that's where you see they're going to be, especially when you watch those growth rates and health trends.
With all of these advancements, where do you see development going, further? I mean, it sounds like you've got a handle on just about everything as far as the tailoring, the extraction process. Where do we go from here?
I think there's a lot of different technologies that are doing it. I think that, the one thing we're working on today is, the reason people like consuming dried cannabis and in pre-roll or everything else, it's very convenient and it's immediate, right? So when you actually smoke dried cannabis, you get high quite quickly. And I think that's been the dividing barrier for why cannabis users don't use beverages and edibles previously, where they didn't want to wait. Normally, in a beverage or an edible, you'd have to wait kind of 45 minutes to 2 hours to feel that high. And that high would actually last for 4 to 8 hours. It can last quite a while in some individuals where, if you just smoke it, it's more convenient. You get high and then it starts to dissipate. Where we've invested in technologies is really on the onset and offset of cannabis, where now if you consume a Valens beverage or a Valens edible, you can feel that onset in 5 to 15 minutes, just like the dried cannabis. And it starts to go away in 45 minutes to 2 hours instead of sticking around for 4 to 8 hours. And I think that's a game changer because the consumers are changing in the cannabis space, where you think about that you have, the 25 to 45-year-old male, where today, you're actually focusing on more of your different growth rates. Women is one of the fastest growing areas, and, 45 plus women, right, are consuming cannabis. What do they want to consume at home? And, we've tried to mirror the technology with kind of that CPG and consumption patterns that you're seeing. And I think that's the bridge. And that's why I believe you're going to see, it continue to expand and take market share, is because that social acceptance and the ease of consumption. And if you can put technologies like we do in where it feels like dried cannabis, I think you're only going to see that accelerate.
Well, give us a website where we can learn more about your company.
Yeah, of course. So the valenscompany.com, you can check out our website. We just put on an investor day and we have a whole bunch of videos. I encourage everyone to look at the automation, but regardless, I mean, the focus for us is we're investing in the future of cannabis. And I think a lot of people focus on the money side, but they forget about the IP side. Mm-hmm. And I think that, the consumers first, the medical patients are first. And that's why we invest so heavily in those areas.
Well, I appreciate your time this morning, Everett. Thank you so much for joining us here on Health Professional Radio, and good luck with all of your endeavors there at the Valens Company.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Everett Knight, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Investments for the Valens Company. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Health Professional Radio.